Today I want to give you 5 tips for making your wax seals. So the first thing we need to go over is your supplies. You're going to need a stamp. So of course you have the stamp that you got in your wax seal club box. You're going to need some wax. So you got some of that in your box as well. These are in a glue stick format, so they go into a glue gun. And we want to make sure that we're using a low temp glue gun like this. So this is an AdTech brand glue gun, and we just want to make sure that it's switched to low. And honestly, the brand of glue gun I have several different brands and they all work great. This is a Sure Bonder, and again, it's going to have that switch. We just want to make sure it's on low. I have glue guns in my shop that don't have a switch, so you may find some like that as well, where they're just set to low temperature without the switch. But really, any low temp glue gun is going to work great. The last thing that you're going to want to have is parchment paper or a silicone baking mat. So this is a sheet of parchment paper that I have lying down to make my wax seals on. So one of the most important things when making wax seals is your temperature. So you want to have it on low, and we're going to do a pour here. But even when your glue gun is on low temp, it can still get a little bit hot. So even at this point, this is looking a little bit warm to me, the wax, because it's not as billowy. It's more flat and runny. Let's press this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna unplug my glue gun. And that is something that I tell people So I went ahead and unplugged my glue gun, but you can see after I poured it, you can see how when I pressed, the shape is quite irregular, and that's a good indication that the wax is too hot. So let's try one more. Now that the glue gun is unplugged, this one's looking a little bit better. Oops. And press. And you can see that one's holding its shape a little bit better. I think it's still just a tiny bit too hot. So we'll wait just a minute. But the next tip, so you want to make sure it's the right temperature. If you see a lot of little bubbles, that's also an indication that it's too hot. It's boiling the wax. The next thing you're going to want to look for is the pour. You want to pour the wax in the shape of your stamp. So today I grabbed several different sizes. For a circle, of course, we want to pour it into a circle, and that's really easy to do with the glue gun. And a square, same thing, also a circle because it's a square. But the oval and these oblong rectangles, like the one in your box, we need to make the wax be in the shape of the stamp. So let's try pouring. For this one, what I like to do is have my stamp here and pour next to it so I can see how long it is and I can make sure I'm getting the wax the right length. And I'm just going to do a pour this way, a pour back, and I'm just going to go back and forth a few times, and I'm just trying to make it generally a rectangle shape. It's not exact, but close. And then I'm going to turn this over and press in. So let's do a couple more. So let's try this oval one. For this one, what I do, I again just go back and forth, but just keep pressing, and it kind of naturally creates an oval shape for me. And I'm gonna turn it over, and I'm standing almost or sitting almost directly above so I can see that I'm getting a good press. That's something people ask, like, how do you get it centered? If you're standing directly above it, that makes it a little bit easier to do that. Let's talk a little bit about the press. Let's pour for this one. So we want it to be a little rectangle. And again, it's nice to kind of have the stamp to the side so you can see how much wax you're gonna need. But you wanna use quite a bit of pressure. We're gonna press down, hold, then let go. You have to hold for a minute because the wax is wet, so it's gonna slide. So you press down hard, hold, let go, and that should work pretty well. At this point, I need to re-plug my glue gun back in so it doesn't get too cool, and then we'll continue making more. After we pour and press our seals, we want to wait until they are cool before we remove them. So you can kind of feel the bottom, and if it's feeling pretty cool to the touch, that's a good indication. And also it should just come off easily. So we should just be able to pull it off. Depending on how intricate the seal is, like this one is quite intricate, it can stick a little bit more like when you're pulling it off, but it should come off pretty easily. Let's try this one, was the one we did next. And if it's not coming off easily, then that's an indication that it's too hot. These are all pretty intricate stamps. Let's see. Again, you're feeling it should just come right off the parchment paper, and that's really how it should snap off. Just snap, come right off. Where these ones, I think I could have let them cool a little bit longer because they were having a hard time coming off the stamp. Let's see this one. Just like that. That's how they should come off. If they're sticking more than that, let them cool a little bit more. And this one, yep. Look how cute, a little sunflower. So when we're looking at this one, you can see that it's off-centered, and that comes down to the press, where I need to be more centered when I'm pressing it in to get equal amounts of this lip around the edge. Okay, so let's just go through it one more time. All the tips. You want to make sure your temperature is on low and that it's the right temperature. You want to pour your wax in the general shape of your stamp, like so. When we're pressing, we're going to turn, we're going to press down, hold, then let go. Then we have to let this cool before we're going to touch it. Oh, and use pressure. I kind of already said that, but just make sure that you're using pressure when you're pressing down. Something that can happen, it didn't happen on any of these ones, but sometimes if you don't use enough pressure, you'll get some like ridges and lines around in this flat portion of the design. So it's always a good idea to make sure that you're using enough pressure. So those are my tips. Let me know if you have any other questions about making wax seals in general.